Hi, Emma. It's great to finally sit down and chat. I realized we never formally introduced ourselves.
Oh, you're right. I'm Emma. I'm glad we're doing this. It makes the conversation feel more comfortable.
Definitely. I'm Ayra. I think a proper introduction makes it easier to connect when meeting someone new.
Absolutely. A good introduction can set the tone for the rest of the conversation.
Exactly. It helps both people feel more relaxed.
So, Ira, when you meet someone for the first time, do you usually feel confident introducing yourself?
Most of the time, yes. But in bigger groups, I sometimes feel a bit nervous.
I know what you mean. I usually plan a few sentences in my head before speaking. It helps me feel prepared.
That's a good idea. I usually start with my name, where I'm from, and maybe one interest or hobby.
Same here. Short and clear works best so the other person can remember you easily.
I always try to smile while introducing myself. A smile makes people feel comfortable immediately.
Absolutely. And speaking clearly with a calm tone makes a big difference.
Eye contact is important too. Not too much, just enough to show you're attentive.
Right. And adding a small question at the end, like, and you, keeps the conversation flowing naturally.
Exactly. It makes the other person feel included.
Mentioning a hobby or interest briefly also helps. Shared interests make it easier to connect.
True, but I try to keep it short so it doesn't feel overwhelming.
And it's fine to admit if you're a little nervous. People appreciate honesty.
So introducing yourself confidently really comes down to clarity, friendliness, and staying calm.
Absolutely. Practicing small introductions like this helps a lot.
I feel more prepared just talking about it now.
Me too. Next time we meet someone new, we can introduce ourselves naturally.
Friendly, clear, confident.
Exactly. But let's dig into this a bit more, because there's so much to unpack about making a truly great first impression, beyond just the basic hello, my name is.
Totally. It's not just about saying your name, it's about making a connection. I mean, how many times have you been introduced to someone and 5 minutes later you've completely forgotten their name?
Oh, far too many. And it's always so awkward when you have to subtly ask again. I think one of the biggest hurdles for people is the fear of stumbling over words or just not knowing what to say after the initial introduction.
Right. It's like you've nailed the first sentence and then blank. That's where I think asking a simple, open-ended question really comes in handy. Not just and you, but something that invites a little more detail.
Like if someone mentions they're from a different city, instead of just nodding, you could say, "Oh, that's interesting. What do you like most about living there?" It shows you're actually listening and not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Exactly. Active listening is such a powerful tool in introductions. It makes the other person feel heard and valued, which instantly builds a sense of rapport. People remember how you made them feel, more than what you actually said.
That's so true, and I think body language plays a huge role too. We talked about smiling and eye contact, but what about your posture? Are you slumped over looking at your shoes, or are you standing tall, open, and approachable?
Absolutely. Open body language, uncrossed arms, facing the person, a slight lean forward, signals that you're engaged and receptive. It's like an unspoken invitation to connect, isn't it?
It really is, and it's something you can consciously practice. I used to be terrible at standing with my arms crossed, especially when I was nervous. Now I try to make a mental note to keep my hands relaxed, maybe even gesturing a little to seem more natural.
That's a great tip. And what about the actual context? Introducing yourself at a casual party is one thing, but a networking event or a professional conference is a whole different ballgame.
Definitely. In professional settings, I think it's even more crucial to have that brief, clear elevator pitch. Not a sales pitch, mind you, but just a concise way to explain what you do or what your current focus is, so the other person has a hook.
Oh, the dreaded elevator pitch. I used to overthink those so much, but you're right, it's not about being slick. It's about being informative and inviting further conversation. Like, hi, I'm Ira, I work in digital marketing helping small businesses boost their online presence. Simple, clear, and gives them something to respond to.
Exactly. And then, ideally, you pivot quickly to them. What brings you to this event? Or what kind of work do you do? The goal is always to make it a two-way street, not a monologue.
Yeah, nobody wants to feel like they're being interrogated or lectured. It's a dance, really, a delicate balance of sharing and asking, listening and responding.
A dance with potentially awkward moments. I remember once, at a big industry event, I introduced myself to someone and they just stared at me, no response, not a word. I just stood there for what felt like an eternity before awkwardly excusing myself. It was brutal.
Oh no, that's the worst. What did you do? Just turn and walk away?
Pretty much, I mumbled something about needing another coffee. It taught me that sometimes it's not about you. Maybe they were having a bad day, or deeply introverted, or just not in a conversational mood. You can't control their reaction, only your approach.
That's a really important lesson. We often internalize those moments and think, oh, I must have done something wrong. But maybe they just had cotton in their ears or their mind was elsewhere. So resilience is key when introducing yourself, I guess.
Absolutely. Don't let one bad interaction derail your whole night. Just brush it off and move on to the next person. There are plenty of people out there who are genuinely happy to connect.
That's true. And what about when you're the one being introduced by someone else? Sometimes that's even harder because you haven't initiated it yourself.
Oh, that's a classic. You're standing there, someone says, Emma, this is Ayra, and then they just walk away, leaving you both in total silence. It's like, thanks for the assist, but a little context would be great.
Right? Or they give a really brief, right? Or they give a really brief, bland intro. In those moments, I think it's even more important to immediately jump in with that friendly smile, extended hand if appropriate, and a warm, "Hi, Ira, nice to meet you," and then quickly follow up with a question.
Yes, seize the initiative. Don't wait for them. Take control of the conversation. So, how do you know the person who introduced us? Or have you been to an event like this before? Just something to get the ball rolling.
Those are great fallback questions. They're neutral, non-intrusive, and usually lead to an easy conversational path. It takes the pressure off both of you.
Exactly. And it's about making it easy for the other person to respond. If you ask a yes-no question, you're putting the burden on them to elaborate. An open-ended question is like offering them a conversational prompt.
It really boils down to empathy, doesn't it? Thinking about how the other person might feel and trying to make them comfortable. That's the heart of a good introduction.
It absolutely does. And practice. I think a lot of people just assume I'm bad at introductions and give up. But it's a skill, just like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get.
I used to be so shy, honestly. In college, I'd avoid networking events like the plague, but I realized I was missing out on so many opportunities, both personal and professional, so I started small.
How small? Like, hi, I like your shirt, to a stranger in a coffee shop, or just a genuine compliment. It wasn't even about exchanging names initially, just breaking that barrier of silence, and slowly it built up to more formal introductions. That's brilliant. It's like exposure therapy for social anxiety. You gradually build your confidence muscles. I think a lot of people feel like they have to come in with a grand statement, but sometimes the most effective introductions are the simplest and most human.
Yeah, and not being afraid to be a little vulnerable. Saying something like, I'm a bit nervous at these things, but I wanted to say hello, can actually be disarming and make you more relatable.
That's a fantastic point, Ira. It shows authenticity. And people connect with authenticity, not perfection. Nobody expects you to be a perfectly polished robot.
So true. I mean, think about the people you've genuinely connected with. Was it because they had the most flawless introduction, or because they felt real and you felt a natural spark?
Definitely the latter. It's that genuine interest, that shared laugh, that moment where you realize you have something in common. That's what sticks, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it starts with that initial courage to just step up and say hello, to overcome that internal resistance and put yourself out there, even for a moment.
So, for anyone listening who might be dreading their next social gathering or professional event, what would be your top takeaway, Ira, for making a confident introduction?
I'd say, remember the core three: friendly, clear, and confident. But add a fourth: curious. Be genuinely curious about the other person. That curiosity will guide your questions and your listening, making the whole interaction feel natural and engaging.
Curiosity, I love that. That's such a great way to frame it. For me, it would be to remember that it's okay to feel a little nervous, but don't let that stop you. Take a deep breath, offer a smile, and start with the intention of making a connection, not just getting through it.
Wonderful advice, Emma. I think we've covered so much, and hopefully, our listeners feel a bit more equipped to tackle their next introduction.
I certainly feel more confident after our chat. It's amazing how just talking about these things can make you feel more prepared. So, go out there, introduce yourselves, and make some great connections.
Thanks for joining me, Emma. This was a really insightful conversation.
You too, Ira. I had a blast. And to all our listeners, remember, every introduction is an opportunity. Make the most of it.